So, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening to our listeners from wherever you're listening from. Welcome to the ADHD Reframe Project podcast. Bit of a mouthful, but here we are with me, host Emma, and today I'm joined by Nick. So, Nick, would you like to just introduce yourself a little bit, please?
Yeah, so I'm Nick Lennon Barrett. I've worked as a learning leader for over 20 years. I'm also an author and speaker and coach.
Ooh, interesting.
Learning and development. So I've been like a
Learning and development.
head of learning for like 20 years. I set up my own training and coaching company last year and kind of went solo, but I still keep my foot in that world. Yeah.
Any specific learning?
So general kind of organizational learning. So a lot in leadership and management, a lot in culture, behavioral stuff. Obviously neurodiversity has come up, and future skills as kind of areas that kind of a bit of everything because you're overseeing learning for the whole business. And I've worked in everywhere from like public sector to financial services. So lots of different sectors
Wow.
and worked with people in different countries as well.
Yeah. And an author as well. I'll put the links to your books and stuff at the end. But
Yeah.
yeah, and an author.
Yeah.
Fascinated.
Yeah. I published my first non-fiction book last year, but I've published 16 fiction books. And I published 10 books in the last 18 months. But that's ADHD for you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking like my writing technique and my writing skills are just, sometimes I read it back because I'm studying psychology at the moment, and the academic writing stuff for me is the biggest challenge. And I think
That's awful.
exactly. So when I'm trying to, I'll write something, because I try and break it down and say write a certain amount of words a day. And the next day, sometimes I read it back and I'll be like, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know what I was saying.
Oh,
It's so yeah.
the trick is to get to the end of the book. You can't edit a blank piece of paper. Just get to the end. It's a lot easier to knock it into shape then.
Yeah, mind you, I am writing a book, but I've been writing it for a few years now. So it's like it's something that's happening in the background. So you've just given me a
Yeah,
little bit of kind of encouragement to keep going with it. So,
yeah, yeah.
so ADHD, tell me, diagnosed? Do you want to talk to me about your diagnosis,
Yeah,
please?
so I got diagnosed in 2020 in the pandemic, which was done over Skype, which was unusual at the time to do things that way. So it was something I'd had the same therapist for over 10 years by that point, and I found kind of we talked about it quite a bit, but I never had like a spare grand to pay for it. And so it was just when the pandemic meant that I couldn't go on holiday, so I had to spare. So I did that, and it gave me a sense of understanding and kind of because I had a lot of childhood was difficult. I was I was quite disobedient boy, and kind of got a lot of negative from teachers, pupils, parents, and so it kind of relived all that, and also it's kind of things I'd done as an adult, kind of I suppose taken some fairly reckless risks, and also kind of when I'd been given feedback in work and to change something, and I was like, I just can't do this. Something's wrong. I can't do this. And I'd already learned, because I was in my 40s when I got diagnosed, I'd already learned kind of strategies to combat the weaknesses, as people would call them, by leaning into the areas I was strong at. So that's kind of the approach I took when I set up my own training company, was a strengths-based approach, because you can't fix something that can't be fixed, but you
Yeah.
can use something else. One of my favorite lines I use when I do emotional intelligence training is, I'll probably spend 95% of my time perpetually irritated, but people don't need to know that. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. It's, yes. So you've kind of built your life around like, even though you weren't diagnosed until you were in your 40s, you built your world, your life around kind of learning, which is amazing.
Yeah, I realized early on I want to try to find the balance of finding something I was good at and that I enjoyed doing and that paid well. And so I was in a like generalist HR kind of role at the early start of my career and kind of enjoyed that and was good at it and was successful. But it was the having to deliver horrible messages to people and all that just didn't it just didn't bring me a lot of joy. I worked in the retail sector right through the financial crisis and just had to close so many shops down and put people out of jobs. And it was just not a pleasant thing to do. And so I decided to pivot and yeah, probably couldn't get to the levels of salary that I would have done as a chief people officer or something, but I would still have a comfortable life, but do a job that brought me joy. And actually, I felt like I was making a difference to people because I was helping
Yeah.
them further their own careers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved helping people, like, I think that's kind of my purpose, and I'm
Yeah.
more of a people person than a writing person, but obviously in life you need to be able to write something
Yeah.
to get through. Um, but yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Like I just love helping other people is kind of just where a huge part of my purpose comes from.
Yes.
Um,
Yes, I agree. It's when you see that
and
light bulb go off and stuff in people,
yeah,
it's
yeah, and I also think as well, like I always try and think about the people that don't, the underrepresented people, the underprivileged people, the
yeah,
people that are in the kind of that unfortunately fall into the lowest bracket of income and stuff
yeah,
that don't have any access to any kind of support. Um, and obviously I've said I'm studying psychology at the moment, and it's kind of given me a different frame, a different narrative from like what the actual what the benefits are from getting higher education or
yeah.
doing higher education studying, but then how can these institutions, organizations support students like me? So it's yeah.
Yeah, I get that because I left. I mean, I got kicked out of home at 16. I did A levels for a month and dropped out because I found it boring. I was never academically. I was clever, but I was never academically gifted. I mean, one time my one kind of bit of advice, and my mum definitely had ADHD. Obviously, never diagnosed, but she definitely had it. I think I got ADHD from her and autism from my dad. But at one parents' evening, the RE teacher said that I'd caused her to question her faith because and my mum's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" And she said, "Well, he never comes to lessons. When he does, he's very disruptive, throws things around the classroom. But he got 97% in the exam, and I had to give him an A. So I feel very conflicted about that." And my mum just responded with, "Oh, he got an A." so, but so I was and I did get told by the headmaster, it was the they said you, you're just in the wrong crowd and you're clever, so you've got a chance. So what we'll do is we'll just kick your mates out of school instead, and you can stay. And they did get booted. Some of them, a couple of my friends did get booted out. I mean, their behaviour was worse than mine, but it was and it so school was challenging. So I left home at 16, had a very volatile temper as a teenager because I had a lot of kind of difficult upbringing. My mum had me at 15. My dad was 16. My dad didn't want to know. I grew up in kind of council house, low socioeconomic background. My mum didn't finish education, kind of was on the dole or doing kind of low manual work. Both parents had drug problems. Both died young because of that. Um, and so I grew up in that kind of environment. But then when I kind of left home and forged my own way, it kind of developed, I don't know, I guess, a sense of resilience. My grandmother was like almost like my mother. My mum was like not best friend, more like a big sister. My grandmother was more like the mum in a way, and she was the one. And so when I was 16 and thinking I was realized I probably was gay, so I was trying to work that out in my head. Left home, my dad died suddenly at 33. It's kind of like a lot all happened in a short space of time. And when you're a teenager, you have raging emotions and hormones anyway, but I just did not know how to regulate all those emotions at the time. And obviously, looking back, I know what it was. I was like severe rejection sensitivity from being kicked out, felt abandoned by my dad, even though he didn't choose to die. But there's a lot makes sense when you have the diagnosis of some of those kind of past lived experiences. But like you said, is with the underprivileged, is I have the benefit, I suppose, of being neurodivergent, gay, and from a low social economic background. But I'm now a middle-aged white man, and that gives me doors. And it's about opening those doors for other people who don't get those doors open for them, and giving them when you have a space at the table, it's speaking up for those voices who don't have a space at that table. So I think that's important to kind of, if you have an element of privilege, you should use that for other people as well.
Yeah, absolutely. My childhood was similar, not the same, but similar. We grew up in council housing. My mum had me, and I never slept, and then I never sat still as a toddler. So I think she just didn't really bond with me or didn't like me. She purposely lied to me about my dad and kept me away from him. She told me he didn't love me and didn't want to see me, when in fact she was keeping him away from me on purpose and stuff. So,
Yeah,
we were poor, we had nothing. Um, and my mum's idea of being a good parent was making sure the house is clean, you've got clean clothes on and food to eat. And that was about it. And I know that's probably a generational thing.
yeah,
I can kind of reason with that, but I don't have any contact with her anymore. My brother and I both have had issues with drugs in the past. So yeah, I think it's like, I love what you've just said about being the voice for the underrepresented and the
yeah,
underprivileged, like that. That's been, and I also think as well, when you've had childhoods like we have, you kind of almost like on days that I feel sad or days that I sit here and think I actually can't do this, I remember all, not all, but I try and focus then on what I've overcome already, and that keeps me
yeah,
going. Do you
yeah.
have any experiences with that?
Yes. So I mean, I'm the oldest of three. I was an only child till I was nine, and my brother came along. So we've all got different dads, so we're quite spaced out. My brother's 9 years younger than me, and my sister's 23 years younger than me. So I never grew up with my sister because I'd left home by then. And I don't have as close a relationship with my siblings as I'd like, but these things just happen. You sometimes drift apart, and we've all got our own kind of baggage and everything of and we had different relationships with our parents. And one thing with my mother, she made some poor choices, but I never ever doubted she didn't love me. There was never any doubt about that. She did what she could. But when I came
Bless
out,
her.
she was nothing but supportive.
Yeah,
She knew she was always my biggest cheerleader. She was so proud when I got my degree. I can never doubt that she loved me. It's just she made some poor choices and didn't have the strength to overcome her demons. As simple as that.
yeah,
It's kind of it's just difficult. I kind of came to accept. I think probably because of losing my dad at a young age. I came to accept she was going to go at some point one day, and I think
yeah,
my sister was too young. She was only 9, and my brother was because my mum was older when she had him. He had more of a mum son relationship, and kind of therefore kind of it's we just had different different relationships, and you can never question or judge the different ways in which people grieve with loss.
yeah,
But I just this it's when good I find it when good things happen that I miss her
yeah.
because I'd like to have called her and told her because I know if she'd be and she never I met my husband kind of just around the time she died actually and thankfully our relationship stood that kind of challenge early on in the relationship but so it was nice to have had her at my wedding and stuff like that
Oh,
but life doesn't go that way but I find, yeah, because I moved to London at 19. I'd met some guy on a phone chat line. That's how long ago it was because the internet wasn't a thing. And, and decided to just jump on a coach and go and meet this random guy who I didn't know what he looked like, where he lived, and was meeting him at Victoria Coast Station. He could have been a serial killer. Um, but he then, so I had spent the weekend with him. He then obviously didn't want some young lad like hanging around. But he introduced me to a friend of his who basically just said, "Look, no strings attached. There's a sofa there for as long as you need it." And I was on that sofa for 4 years. And I refer to him as my godfather now. He's like my grown up friend. Came to my graduation with my mother and grandmother and everything. Still going now. He's 80 this year. Kind of like
oh,
it's like it's a definition of found family. We both were in a bad way when we found each other. Kind of went to see him last weekend, kind of still a bit we've known him for 30 years now. It's just kind of um but I found, yeah, and then some of the tricky stuff that happened kind of early on in London. Um got sacked for being gay from a job because it was still
Oh,
legal to do then. Um and was in an abusive relationship for a while, got out of that and kind of had some other challenges early on. And I think it's those experiences but drawing on some of the stuff of having to raise myself sometimes, you draw on some of those early experiences and you can get through something.
yeah.
Um, but it's still doesn't stop anything hurting when it happens. But it knowing you can draw on the strength is helpful, but it's important to not um, suppress the emotions because they'll bite you in the arse later.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And I'm so sorry for your loss. That was such a huge kind of to lose your dad really young and then to lose your mum, even though she had her demons, the fact that you had a relationship with her, is just it is really it's cherished. It should be cherished, shouldn't it? And
Yeah,
I don't talk about my childhood experiences to kind of upset other people. I just think sometimes it's important just to understand where we come from and what's made us
yeah,
into the person we are today
yeah,
and stuff. And my brother was also born when I was 8,
yeah,
and we've got different dads, and I don't get on with him. I don't speak to him anymore. Um, but it's just, yeah, I love that you found family. Like that's
yeah.
honestly,
Yeah, most of my closest friends I've known 20 plus years, or at least 10. I know my husband is part of a massive family who've kind of embraced me with open arms as like, his mum was one of eight, and there's like millions of cousins and stuff. So it's kind of, I married into a big loving family. So yeah, so I kind of don't feel of course, I'd love my mum to still be around, but I don't feel I'm missing
yeah,
something. Um, and my nan was around till she was 91. Last few years were tough because dementia was quite bad, but she was still there in a way. I remember the last memory with her was she was in the home by that point and she was flirting with some young Scouse fitness instructor who'd come in to do some exercises with all the people in the home. I was like, you know what? If I'm doing that, if I'm flirting with some young lad at 91 in a home, I've had a good life. So it's kind of like, she didn't have a clue who I was, but we had a really nice, nice time. And you hold on to those good memories. That was my last visit with her, and it was kind of it was a good
oh,
one. So you kind of you hold on to those. I think
yeah,
those good memories are what you get you through when you're feeling a bit shitty from a
yeah,
you've had a bad day or someone's. It can be some little comment someone said that can just send you spiraling.
yeah.
Um, and so pulling on some of those happy memories helps. Yeah,
Yeah, my grandma also had dementia, and towards the end it was really bad, but in the beginning, when she was staying with us, it was funny. We used to laugh because she'd lose her teeth, her hat, and her handbag, and we had to search everywhere for them because she wouldn't leave the house with any of them, without any of them and stuff. And or she'd boil the kettle dry, and it's just like But dementia is. I mean, we could talk about that for hours
yeah.
probably.
So it's a
That's her it's just
it's
not a
awful,
pleasant
awful.
thing.
It's like losing someone twice.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like them not recognizing you as well. There was a few times towards the end before my grandma passed away when I was 16. Um, but there was a few times towards the end when the dementia was that bad. But every now and again, like I'd be sitting, say, in the sofa on the sofa with her, just sitting there and stuff, and she'd look at me, and I thought she knew who I was, but she obviously that was just a fleeting kind of
Yeah.
few seconds, and then it'd go again. But yeah, I think the dementia is just it's really not pleasant for
No,
families. So
no, not at all.
so what degree did you do? I'm intrigued now. You've done some studying. Which degree did you
Yes.
do?
So I went back to uni. I went back into education at 21, I think. I did like an access to higher education course for a year with a bit of a mix of subjects to see what I liked. I ended up doing sociology and politics as my degree, purely because I found the subjects interesting. Um, and then I fell into working in HR. It wasn't the plan. And so when I was in HR, I thought, oh, I like this as a career. I went and did my master's in HR. So I did my master's over 2 years while still working full time, which was a fun period. But I was in my 20s, so I had the energy. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of, and again, it was like that. It's that academic thing. I always find I can do enough to get the merit or the 2-1, but to get the first, you either have to have no life for or be incredibly academically minded. And my brain is too argumentative with academia. I remember doing my coaching qualification a while back, and there was an academic element to that. And I went into this huge rant about how the grow model doesn't work with coaching executives. And my tutor came back to me and went, I agree with everything you said, but can you find me one reference to a person who says it as well? Because otherwise, just like she'd gone on a rant for half a page. I was like, oh yeah, I'll find someone. But yeah, so I think it's sort of a good, I suppose a good thing, and I didn't realize I was doing it at first with it's probably an ADHD trait, is I know I'm not good at exams. Really good at coursework, not good at exams. So what I did in my degree in the second and third year is I partly picked politics because it was so coursework based. Um, but also what I did was I put all my exam based modules into my second year.
Okay.
And so my entire last year was all coursework modules because I knew if my grades dropped, I would have a year to pull them back.
Yeah.
So I kind of, but I did that because I knew that was how I could get the best grade. So I was probably doing the kind of ADHD strategies without realizing I was doing them, but it worked. I got a 2-1. So
Congratulations as well for that. I know it's a hard one for us with ADHD. Yeah, like academia, academic, just my
yeah,
yeah, oh, I just
yeah,
can so relate to all of that.
yeah,
It's just, and I can notice with like certain modules that I get lesser marks on because I've just got no interest in them at all.
yeah,
But I think for me, studying psychology has been really it's been a journey of self discovery for me, but
yeah,
also I think I've managed to, apart from 2 assignments, managed to include ADHD in real world examples. So then that gives me the novelty and the interest, if that
yeah,
makes sense. So then
yeah,
obviously, you don't obviously don't know because I've not told you before, but I'm obsessed with ADHD, talk about it all the time. Um, hence the podcast.
yeah,
But it's like adding that element of novelty and interest into it just helps me to be able to get the actual writing done.
yeah,
And it's like they say, "Oh, you need to synthesize your arguments," and I look at it and I'm like, "I have," but because they've probably not got ADHD and I have, it's like there's different kind of ideas of what these things are actually meant to be. So
yeah.
yeah,
But
it's not for the
I typically I mean, it's similar to writing books. I always say I write my book 4 times. So I write the book first time is for me. No one's going to see that draft. It's just get it out. They call it sometimes called the vomit draft. Um, then the second draft is for my editor because what I don't want her to do, I don't want to waste her time. I'm paying her. I don't want to waste her time on clumsy mistakes that I could have spotted myself.
yeah
The third draft is I'm writing it for the reader. So I want to give them a good experience, no clumsy mistakes that are going to pull them out of the experience, but also give them whether it's fiction, non-fiction, give them the kind of narrative so it feels an enjoyable read. And then the last version is the final polish, which is for my 1-star reviewers, because I don't want to give them ammunition. Because you do get 1-star reviews, but I never look at my reviews unless I'm in the right headspace. Um, but arguably, when the book's out there, it's a product, and I don't regard it as an extension of me. And I've had to process myself that because the first time I got a 1-star review, it hurt. But I kind of don't, and sometimes they're quite funny. Um, in terms of what the crap that people come up with. But it's fine. So when I did academia, I found I would write what I wanted to write, and then I would write it to get me the mark. So sometimes it's kind of going through it in a second with that lens on, so you can still get it out, and then go through it with that lens on can help with that because it's one thing I learned because I have to do boring parts in my job sometimes is how do I hyper focus on something that's boring, and I've kind of got to do things like do it first thing in the morning because then when I've done it, the dopamine release gives me a buzz. There's different things like that. I call it my focus beam superpower, in that I kind of have to turn the beam on and get the right radio station on heart 80s or 90s, depending on what day it is, and kind of just get it done. Turn off all my distractions, throw my phone on the couch behind me, and just kind of focus for, even if it's just half an hour, to make a
Yeah.
dent in it. And it's the dopamine release is amazing. So I've learned to do that where I've needed to, and my reward is doing something interesting. So
What's the interesting bit then afterwards? Your reward, what is the interesting
it
bit?
just depends. It might be, if it's personal, I might go and read for a bit. I read a lot. I read like 200 books last year, so I do read a lot as well. I or I will do something that's interesting, like a more creative task, because I love doing creative stuff. Um, or I'll go to, if it's the middle of the afternoon, I'll go to Costa for the muffin and coffee deal,
Very nice.
and read, or write my journal or whatever it is. A journal that no one will ever be able to read back because my writing is terrible, but it's probably a good thing.
I mean, for me, I'll try and break it because obviously the hyper focus is the deadline for me. That's when it
Yeah,
kind of fully kicks in. But yeah, I've had quite a few 18-hour hyper focus stints of the weekend trying to get it finished and trying to make sure it's, it's good or whatever it makes sense, or the references match
yeah,
and stuff, and the citations and like, yeah. But I think for me, the best thing that's worked when I'm in the last 2 weeks of like before the deadline. So even before the hyper focus is kicked in, like I make sure I've got all the research papers that I'm going to use.
yeah,
I write bullet points. I make sure that I've got nothing else on in that week or in that day, so then I can just fully focus. And then during the day, I'll do an hour of concentrate. Well, 50 minutes Pomodoro technique, 50
yeah,
minutes, and then 10 minutes break. But then after that hour, I will fully focus on the essay for that hour.
yeah,
And then after that, I'll do an hour of something interesting, like you've just said. So it'll either be, I might even sit on the sofa with my partner and, just watch something on the telly, or I'll read something about ADHD or talk about ADHD. I'll do something like that. But so then I break the kind of the days into like hours chunks. So it's
yeah,
not, because I know a lot of people use Pomodoro and they do the 25 and 5, but the 25 minutes is not enough for
yeah.
me to get stuck into what I need to get done. So I choose 50 and 10.
You
But
do what works for
also,
you.
exactly. But also, the most important thing for me has always been body doubling. The minute that I'm on a body doubling, it's weird. Like I can procrastinate, I can distract myself, I can do anything else but start the writing. But the minute I'm in a body doubling session and someone else, it's only always virtual. But the minute that I'm in, it's like I just get it done, and it's fascinating to kind of think about it and talk about it, but it's like the
Yeah.
benefits of just having someone else there. It's yeah.
Yeah, I find, so I set myself dead. So I've currently got four books on pre-order that I've, and three of them I haven't even started writing yet, and they're all out this year. Um, so and I've also got my editor booked for certain dates, so that kind of helps frame and stuff like that.
That's your
But
accountability then. That's your
but the
deadline.
But the book but I'm a self-published author. I can't, so Amazon is, I can't move I can only push it back a month. If I remove a pre-order, they won't let me do pre-orders for a year, so it affects my author's side. So
Okay.
there's a consequence. My editor, I can, obviously I've got the flexibility to move her around, but it depends if she's available. But I tend to, but there was a book I'm publishing in May that I was not planning to do this year, but I just felt compelled to write it, so I've slotted. I set myself a challenge at the beginning of the year to publish 7 books in a year, and two are published, and the third one is due out in May. So I'm on track, but it's I don't know why I decided to do that. I'm never doing it again, but it's because I'm also doing it while doing a kind of contracting role as a head of learning and running my own coaching and training business. So, but I like, at least it's, I'm not bored.
Exactly. And I think non-ADHD people can't understand the fact that we need a little bit of a lot of novelty. So we're usually working on multiples of things,
Yeah.
and we have to swap and change just to keep be able to keep
Yeah.
going with some things.
I
So
This morning, I mean, this is a pure ADHD thing. So this is what happened. So I was randomly scrolling on my phone in the morning, so I couldn't bother getting out of bed. So, and I was like going, I'll get up in 10 minutes. And I was on Instagram and it showed a clip from The Crown, um, the TV series The Crown,
yeah,
when she first becomes queen and her grandmother curtsies to her. But it played this track over it, which wasn't in the original broadcast. It's just someone had done a reel on Instagram. And I said, "Oh, I like that song." So Shazammed it. And then was listening, and then went on the shower, listened to it in the shower, then went to Costa to have breakfast and was going to do some writing. By the time I got to Costa, listening to this song repeatedly for like 5 times, because that's how long it took me to get there, I had planned a trilogy series um, invol- involving a prince who becomes king and falls in love with a criminal.
I mean, come on.
And I'm now like, now I want to write this, but I have 4 other books. And I keep thinking, oh, and I've already I've already named all 3 books. I've already named the characters. I've already decided how it can fit into my world I already have. Um, just one song.
I love that. What was the song?
It was, God, it's, hold on, I can never pronounce it because it's not an English song. It's Anissa Bas La Vida.
Oh,
It's kind of very dramatic sounding, and it was just a chorus part. And it was just, and the reason it stuck in my head was just there was one scene between the 2 main characters I could visualize, and the whole world built around it in my head. And I was like, that's 3 books.
yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's on the list. But
Wow.
I've probably got notes for about 80 books written down.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are like, how do
I
you come up
think
with ideas? I went, ideas aren't the problem. It's the bloody finding the time to do them. So,
yeah, but that's the thing, though. The minute that I'm up and moving around or doing something, or even just going to the toilet, get a drink or whatever, like the ideas just seem to ping in my head, and
yeah.
it's like, I can be lying in at bed and it's midnight and I'm lying there thinking I need to go to sleep, but the brain is like, oh, this would be a really good. Why don't you do that like that? And what this and
Mm,
that and that and that? And it's like it's just like it's ongoing, it's constant. But I love that kind of creativity
yeah.
that
I've I
that
have
we have.
two strategies that help me sleep. So one is either I put an episode of The Golden Girls on, which is the greatest show of all time, and fall asleep to
Okay.
that because I've seen it so many times. I can just, it's comfortable. I've watched it with my grandmother growing up, and
Oh,
I just fall asleep to it quite easily. Another is, especially if I wake up in the middle of the night, like for the bathroom or something, and my brain goes to work mode, and I start thinking about whether it's a meeting or something pops in my head, and it'll keep spinning. So what I then will do is I'll email a note to myself, to my
yeah.
work email or something, and it gets it out of my head, and I can just go. I can pick that up tomorrow, and it helps the brain slow down. They're things that work for me. Everyone has their own strategies, but I kind of find it's those things that typically work for me to shut the brain off. But I can't sleep for more than 6 hours. I just can't. So I operate on 6 hours sleep. So if I go to bed at 10, I'll be up at 4. So I always just end up going to sleep at midnight and get up at
My
6. That kind
partner's
of
like
typically
that.
works for me. There's occasionally on a holiday if I'm fully relaxed, I'll do an 8 hour, but it's rare. It's just something I've learned to accept. And I don't know whether I'm kind of like, sometimes when I'm like tired, I have brain fog. I don't know if it's the fact I'm nearly 50, whether it's ADHD, whether it's iron deficiency, because I've had that before, or all of the above. Just get on with the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I turned 50 last year, so it's just it's just the age, I think, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know.
50 doesn't bother me. 30 was traumatic. I don't know why. So
40 was for me, I think. I think
40 didn't bother me.
I was more
Yeah.
upset about turning 40 than I was. I don't even know what that was. Fawny. Oh, sorry. It's,
Mhm.
It's like that part of my brain that has to make me pronounce the words is just broken. Well, not sometimes. It's all the time. So yeah. So oh no, I can God start laughing now.
And I'll
Sorry.
spray water
Sorry.
everywhere.
Sensible. Come on now. Come on.
Mm,
Sensible, Emma. Oh, I can't be sensible. Sensible's boring. Like, what
it
would
is
you want to
boring.
be sensible for?
Exactly.
Sorry. I forget to tell guests that I'm absolutely insane
No, it's
and
fine.
I can't pronounce words. Um, but yeah, I think it makes for a little bit of fun in the afternoon on a Friday
Yeah,
when you've had a
exactly.
boring week. Um, so let's just let me hold on. I'm just going to get sensible Emma back. I'm going to try anyway. I'm joking. So strength based. You mentioned strength based. I'm obsessed with strength based and positive kind of reframing. Obviously, the name of the podcast. But yeah, you mentioned strength based coaching earlier.
Yeah.
Can you?
I published an ADHD book last year, and the approach I took with it is because I know the term superpowers people have very mixed views on, and my view is I don't think you just have superpowers because you're ADHD, but I think
Yeah.
you can turn your strengths, your inherent strengths, into them. If you and also use them to. So I know kind of impulse control and kind of cognitive flexibility are challenges for me, but I'm really good at time management. I'm really good at planning, and I'm really good at hyper focus. Working memory is a hit and miss. It depends on the day. So it's kind of sometimes the autism will go, yes, you'll remember this in fact from 45 years ago, but you don't know where your phone is. So, so it's kind of, so there's an element of, so that's the approach I took was like, how do you turn these into a positive? And also kind of what I learned myself was because impulse control is something I've always struggled with. So I developed things like coaching skills, emotional intelligence, became a practitioner in that to help kind of counteract some of the challenges I have in that space. I even like sometimes if I'm going into a really spicy meeting, I will have a post-it note on my screen in front of me that says, do not speak as a visual prompt. But I have had moments when I've dysregulated and blurted out exactly what I think, and sometimes that's been fine, and sometimes that's not ended well for me. And so it's kind of, but I've been in work situations where they love that you can do the work of three people, but as soon as you show some of the barriers, it's suddenly like, oh, you need to think differently. That's not professional. This is that. There's no the curiosity is not there. It's just you have to conform to this way. And just get to a point where you just like, fine, I'll take my awesomeness elsewhere. So, but one thing I've found as well, and looking at this a lot, kind of working and kind of learning and developments, because of the emergence of AI, a lot of those human centric skills that were seen as kind of soft. I don't like the term soft skills because they're bloody hard. Um, Emotional intelligence, growth mindset, deep focus, that curiosity, risk taking, all this. Machines can't do those things. So those kind of, I think this is a really good time for. It's an opportunity for people who are neurodivergent because they have those inherent strengths, and if they're in an environment that doesn't let them be their authentic selves, then take those strengths elsewhere because they are the world of work is by 2030 they will be the most sought after skills on the market because
Yes.
machines would have replaced other things. So it's a kind of moment to step into the spotlight and also be very picky about where you choose to work. You want to be somewhere where you feel safe, and
Yeah.
being safe is not just in being okay when you're divergent. It's when you have a bad day and you can feel safe, and that you have a manager who'll just go, "What do you need from me? What do you need to do?" It's like a question I ask people when I'm managing them is I just ask, and ask anyone, how do you like to receive feedback? Because we all have different ways. Some people like it brutally
With
honest.
cake, please.
Some people like it with, because that's the thing as well is I've kind of had conversations with managers who are a bit fearful of giving people who have ADHD and autism, whatever, feedback because of RSD. And I said, no, you can give feedback. There's just ways you frame it. Ask them how they want to receive the feedback. Some people might want it written and then to digest it. And bingo. And they're like, and well, HR say I can't put it in writing. I'm like, well, if it's true, why can't you put it in writing? I've worked in HR for 20 years, for God's sake. Um, and there's also there's an element of like, we need a 5-minute chat on Monday. Don't send that to
Oh,
anyone. Neurodivergent or not, do not send that to anyone. I had a boss do that who basically said, "We need to talk after the Easter break." I went, "What?" She said, "Oh,
yeah.
you're back for 1 day before you go on holiday. Let's talk then." I went, "Let's not. Let's talk when I'm back from holiday." So I could just shut it out of my brain. But there's yeah, one time I had a manager who literally turned up to a meeting with like 3 pages of printed notes of what I'd what was wrong with me basically, and I wasn't allowed to speak while she's been through it.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
not fun, but it's fine. It's not bitter about it, of course. No, not at all.
I can tell.
I believe in karma. So,
I mean,
but yeah,
yeah, I mean, the
that
most of the
that
feedback I
wasn't.
used to get when I was working was always, "You're too loud, you talk too much, don't sit still." And I'm like, after I was diagnosed with ADHD, obviously, then that made sense to me
Yeah,
and them. But it's like, yeah, just
yeah,
I mean, strength. I love the strength based stuff because I think it's really empowering, and I don't mind the superpower or um gifted kind of narrative. I don't mind that at all, because I do think that people with ADHD, so there are things that we can do that non-ADHD people can't. And I think
mm,
if we nourish that side of us that is very creative and very,
yeah,
like for me, it's humor, compassion, love for learning, honesty. But I have to try and not be so blunt when I say something honestly, because
yeah,
sometimes I'll just say it exactly as, like, I'm very literal as well.
yeah,
Like, I will just it's just so sometimes I have to try and remember to kind of soften what I'm gonna say, which is a
yeah,
challenge in the moment. But I think, like, there's there we have a lot of so much potential that's not necessarily always, um, we're not able to kind of reach our full potential in certain environments, whether that's
yeah,
work or school or or in social life or what, because
yeah,
there's the expectation that you're going to work a 9 to 5 job and you're going to sit at a desk all day and you're going to behave yourself and you're not going to talk and you just get on with your work. No, thank you. I'd rather
no.
just not. So,
No, and something I've always focused on, whether I'm coaching or training people who are neurodivergent or neurotypical, with the strengths is, look, it's the strengths that get you hired. It's the strengths that get you promoted. The strengths get you the bonuses. It's kind of like the weaknesses, if they're holding you back, yeah, don't ignore them. But don't do it to the expense of your strengths, because that's your USP. That's what you bring to the table. So, and sometimes I think people, there's a lot of a focus from leaders on developing weaker areas, and rather than
mhm,
kind of go, well, this is the brilliant thing. Some leaders also feel threatened if someone in the team can do something better than them, and I've never found that. It's like, well, I don't actually find that interesting, but I know it's important, so I'm going to
mhm,
hire someone who's really good at it to do it for me, um, and not see that as a threat in any way, and kind of like, and almost then can empower them to kind of like run with it themselves. And because I know how rewarding that can be, because I've been the only learning person in the business, and I've managed big teams, so I kind of seen the how much that kind of autonomy can do to help someone fly and really succeed. So I kind of just to go on, but also it's like, how do you utilize like this strength over here to combat some of these areas here? So, like I said, I'm very good at planning and focus and stuff. So if I'm going to have difficult conversations, and sometimes I'll kind of practice them or and think about how I would feel receiving this message, and that helps me with the softening tone and stuff like that. It's more if I'm triggered in the moment and kind of can't just my brain won't catch up with my mouth quick enough. But I'm in a corporate environment. I am better than I am out of work. But out of work, just feel safer because I can be myself, and people love me for the drama. Um, I mean, I always say, kind of like you. There's no such thing as the perfect partner. You just need to find someone who's willing to put up with your shit, and vice versa.
yeah, yeah, tick. I've got that one in the bag. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of because we all have our. Because I always say, if you meet the perfect person
Oh,
that just gets you on that level, and can call you out on your crap and vice versa, is there are no deal breakers. You might have
Yeah.
this list of a perfect partner, but that's out the window when you just connect with someone. And that's the same with any relationship, friendships, anything like that. It's kind of it's about that. It's do I feel safe to be me here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I hope you feel safe here because I'm just
Yeah, yeah.
bonkers. So it's
Yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah.
it's I'll try and make everyone feel comfortable. So
I
yeah,
know,
but I love that.
absolutely.
I love that softening. How would I'm going to remember that now. I'm writing a list of like profound things that the guests say, and I'm writing them down. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to just yeah. So how can I soften my honesty? Think about how that would be received by me. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Like you're teaching me loads. I'm just like, yeah, because I'm very creative, but I'm also very chaotic. I'm also like just, everything I do is like just chaotic, and I struggle with planning. I struggle with prioritizing sometimes as well.
Yeah.
For myself, but the minute I have to do something for someone else, it's done in 5 minutes. Like,
So I
and
have
time
to
blindness for me is just
yeah.
it's like, and
So
I
I have a
say like,
little I have a little planning tool. I call it the color codex, which is these post-its. So
"Ah,
basically, so
I've got these.
basically, so basically, because this is what colors you get in a pack.
Yep,
So pink means priority. This is the stuff
yep,
you have to do immediately. Blue is no, not blue. Sorry, green is go. So they're the things that you just kind of your general to-do list that needs doing. Orange is what we call order because it means something needs to happen before something else. It could be a step in a process. It could be you need to do this before that. And blue is your buffer, which is either an idea you haven't got to yet or you're waiting for someone to come back to you. And I find kind of because I have whiteboards here, I find those are or do whatever works for you. You can kind of go. Sometimes I just do this is the day job. This is the business. This is the writing. So I
yep,
kind of take, but I kind of find that because I'm quite visual, I
yep,
find that kind of if I see a load of pink, it goes right. I need a pink day. I need to get stuff done. Or if I'm feeling kind of like I can't do any deep work, I might kind of look and go, right, I'm going to do these quick tasks because it'll give me a dopamine release. And if I can make it work with my structure of my day. So I just kind of learned it's about finding what works for you. It's the same with time management. I kind of since so I've trained on time management for years and seen so many models and everything. I just found what works for me is to go with your like circadian rhythm.
yep,
So I call it like the element compass. So you have whether you're fire and you're someone who wakes up at lunchtime and then just runs until you burn out, or you're someone who's like the Pomodoro technique, which is I'd call rain. So you're good in multiple short bursts, or your um what's the or your earth. So you like a kind of grounded, you like structure and everything. So it's good to have plans and stuff like that. Or your wind, you just operate in this ball of chaos, but somehow you just get everything done. So, and usually are a blend of the couple, but and you can go, oh, I'm having a win day today. And it's like, okay, so if you're having a win day, you basically just kind of, you just focus on the things that will fuel, I guess, fuel, not the fire, but the storm in terms of like the things that will keep giving you dopamine and go like that. And then you might have a more structured day and stuff like that. So it's always say kind of go with listen to your body. That's the approach I've always taken with that kind of stuff. Because if you try and do a rigid tool, some of them have a lot of merit, but not all brains think alike.
yeah. No, I don't use a lot of post-it notes, but I use different color pens for different things when I'm writing them
Yeah,
down. So then I'm able to take the information in easier
mm,
that way.
yeah, just find it.
So yeah. Yeah. But I think I'm a little bit of the earth. I need a plan, I need a schedule, but I struggle to put the schedule in place. And yeah, I'm very chaotic. I'm very, very windy most days, but I get everything done.
Well, that's what matters.
But but it's just yeah, it's like I need that urgency, that sense of urgency to get going. With anything, it just doesn't. And I do try my best to kind of push myself to get things done sometimes. But yeah, it's just because I think as well that's where I can produce my best work when the deadline is a few days away. When the minute I've got that accountability, like you get
Yeah,
to say a couple of days, and I'm like, I've been working on it, but then them last 2 days is when the full focus kicks in, and then that's when like the high
Yeah.
level of work is produced, if that makes sense. It's
Yeah,
just that's
completely.
just how I am.
I wrote a 4,000 word essay on Alexander the Great in an afternoon the day before it was due and got a first in it.
Well done. Alex.
Becau I don't know how, but but I put it off and put it off and put it off, and I just put it in, and I was surprised I got that mark, to be honest. But I literally picked up like 8 books and just found things that were suitable to reference, and basically just started writing, and then picked up a book and went, right, I'll put that in, and somehow it worked. I don't know. It was just, I think, because I'd been very interested in a lecture, so it was forming in my brain. Possibly, I don't know, but yeah, and I think I know. And then my biggest achievement in writing is I wrote an 80,000 word book in 12 days. Yeah, that was great, good
Fun.
stuff. But yeah, fun. It needed a lot of editing, but it was done in a 12 days. So
Yeah. But I get good grades,
yeah,
and that's still a surprise to me because I have not until I started studying psychology that I actually realised that I can achieve academic
yeah,
first grades. It still makes me cringe a little bit because I'm like, I'm not really good at blowing my own trumpet and celebrating, like, oh, I got 78% on my last essay. The
that's
one
brilliant.
before 72, the one before was 62, but that was quantitative research methods, which I wanted to poke my own eyeballs out of my head than do that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but the minute that it's something that I'm more interested in,
Mm,
I can just, I don't know how. And the thing is, people say to me, like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I don't really I follow a formula, but I don't necessarily, I just am able to, I think because the way that I will perceive things and the way that I kind of join dots is quite unique and stuff. So I think that's what maybe, because I like unusual psychology, or like they say dark psychology, but I like to kind of like critically evaluate or critically, an argument around what is this and what is that, and I can just join
yeah.
dots that other people can't, and I think
Well,
that's
yeah, well, that's because with the ADHD, we inherently take risks. So we'll go and kick over a stone other people won't. And it's the same when you're kind of, you can end up down a wormhole and stuff like that. We've all done that one.
yeah.
But I think the kind of self doubt about grades, because I've had it as well, comes from the just thousands and thousands of negative messages we got from people at school.
Yeah.
I just inherently, I literally was 6 years old, and my headmaster said he wasn't going to give me the belt. And that's how old I am, because that was still a thing, because it was a waste of his time, because I was destined for a prison or a drug overdose. I was 6. They said that
Oh,
to me. Yeah. And I still remember it. It's 42 years ago. But it's kind of, it's those things stick with you. But it's just like, okay, well, at the time, I probably was just delighted I wasn't getting the belt, because that thing hurt on your bare legs in the summer. But I don't even remember what I did to get in the headmaster's office. I know I got into a lot of trouble, but but for some reason that stuck in my head. That comment. And don't get me wrong, if there's certainly people in my friendship group growing up who that was their path, and I think kind of uh, going off and doing my own thing kind of helped, but it's not really something you say to a 6-year-old, is it?
no. Mine
So
was always, you need to stop daydreaming, looking out of the window and actually concentrate, and then, you'll be able to achieve great things. So, but I think, my mum and people I've worked with or for have all just kind of said, "Oh, you a little bit thick, aren't you?" And I'm like, "No, and I took that on myself, and it didn't become my self-fulfilling prophecy, obviously, because here we are talking about academia, and I'm actually
well,
doing better than I ever dreamed I could, but you kind of, that kind of negative conditioning
Yeah.
when you're a child, or when you're in your teenage years or whatever, or when you just keep getting all of that negative feedback all the time, and you
Yeah.
actually, there's something different about you, or something, I don't say wrong, because there's nothing wrong with us, but
Mm.
you're different, you do things in different ways. So then when I finally was diagnosed, I was 43, 2019. I started making sense, and then obviously that has impacted um how I study, because I've learned so much about myself and the ADHD before I started studying. But then
Yeah.
the one thing I did different this time is I reached out for help, because I was the quiet dropout student for most of my life, and I did manage to pass quite a few things. I did counselling studies, level 3, and I did managing volunteers, and so I got 2 level 3s, so I didn't have to do like access. What did you say? It was an access to
Access to higher education. Yeah.
Yeah, that one. I didn't have to do that, thankfully. But I think what I've done this time is I've reached out for help. I've asked. Even some of the lecturers have explained things to me like 5 or 6, 7 times, and they're so patient, and they'll explain it in slightly different ways
Yeah.
until I understand what they're saying. And it's like, it's just
Yeah.
allowing me the space to be able to do that.
I.
Um,
Yeah.
is
It helps
just
having a good. It helps having a good teacher and stuff. I mean, there's a couple that stood out for me at school. My maths teacher, Mrs. Barnes, stands out mainly because I was in like set 3, which meant the highest grade I could get was a C, and there was an opportunity to go up to the next set. And I just said to her, "Please don't put me in that group. It's full of all the bullies. My life will be unbearable. Um, but please don't tell my mum, because she'll want me to go up and just punch them in the face, because
yeah,
should look after myself. Because that's what she did to deal with her bullies, and I get it, but that's just not me. And she kept me down, and I'll always be so grateful for that. And also, I had an English teacher. I wrote creative essay, and I was like 14 or something, and I wrote a very spicy story, especially for a 14-year-old. And the head of English asked to see me, and she goes, "We can't put this in for your GCSE because it's a bit risque." That's what I said. I said, "Oh, I'll just um, do I'll just take those bits out." And she went, "No, no, no. The story's perfect. Write something else. I'll give you an extension." She says, "But you've got a gift there." And then lo and behold, 30 years later, I'm writing romance books. So,
it's amazing.
but yeah,
Yeah,
some of those teachers, and the ones who are, I mean, some of the negative ones stay in your head, but there's kind of there's just a few. And I remember in my degree, I had a really good tutor. I went through some really kind of dark stuff when I was studying, and she was so good to me and so helpful and really understanding of the crap I was dealing with. I know I don't think I'd have got through and got the grades without her. So there's some brilliant people in the teaching profession, who just, I didn't know I was ADHD or autistic then. She just kind of saw me as a human struggling and helped me. And that should be, I think teachers or anyone or managers or anyone should need a diagnosis. It's just you see a human struggling and it's natural to want to help them. But some
yeah.
people don't like that, sadly.
I love that as well. Yeah, I'm very blessed, because I've been taught, and also I've got like the most amazing support from academic skills, success coaches, and stuff. So I think I just and yeah, it's just something very different that I've done. I've reached out and asked for help, because I think I didn't do that in the past, and I did scrape through, and I did get good grades in some things. But I think, with a degree, and with, because I'm a distance learner, so I don't actually go into a campus, I study 100% online. So getting access to like the right support has been vital for me. And, I've advocated not just for myself, but for other students, ADHD students and staff, neurodivergent students, and I've got specific reasonable adjustments in place. So, so then I can effectively study in the best way for myself.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's just I just see the like it's not just the grades, it's just the confidence in myself has grown, because I'm not that failure, I'm not the dropout
no,
student, I'm not the quiet student, I'm and I kind of I turn up and I do my best, and obviously it's shown in my grades. But I think outside of my actual studies, advocating, talking to different teams within the university, talking to just advocating for students like me has just done my confidence so much
Yeah.
like good, because then I feel that's my purpose. I'm helping other people, aren't I? So that's kind of one of the things that I've kind of taken on, in a good way. I mean, I kind of fell into it. I didn't set out to do it. I kind of just fell into it because I think a couple of the staff members saw my capabilities and have just kind of given me opportunities. And then all of a sudden, I was just advocating and doing lots of, focus groups and stuff. And so, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just been, it's not even just the studying, it's like the other
Yeah.
stuff that's given me the confidence, like talking, public speaking, talking in front of like groups of people. I literally couldn't do that. I was terrified. But
Yeah.
now I would do that confidently.
Yeah.
So hence the podcast as well, because it's like, I want to do this because I know, I want to do it's like how the podcast is, but I didn't. So yeah, even like outside of my studies, the confidence that they've given me is second to none. And you can't put a price on that, can you?
No. 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 It's amazing what just a kind human
Yeah.
word or thought or whatever can do. Especially when you've had millions of negative messages, and there's those, and you're your own biggest critic. Um, and there's kind of like there's those elements in there. It's strange because I what you say about the standing in front of people. I have no problem in standing in front of 200 people. Put me in a room with a load of strangers, and I don't want to hide in the corner. But I
So,
think that's the autistic. I think that might be the autistic side of my brain.
me
But
too.
I'm just like, especially because I I predominantly am surrounded by other learning professionals, and they can be quite extrovert and make me feel. If I say I feel introverted, people are like, "What?" but but put me in that environment, I'm like, "No, I'm an introvert today."
Yeah. Yeah, I just no, I can't. Like put me around strangers, and I just go mute. It's like I physically can't speak.
Yeah.
And then it takes me a while to warm up, and then when I do start talking, I think they all prefer it when I don't talk. So I don't shut
Yeah,
up.
or one person speaks to you and you just latch onto them for the 2-day conference, and they're like, "Why have I got this shadow?"
You tell them your life story within the first minute of not even
Yeah,
asking
yeah,
them the name. You just like, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a very common thing.
You do that all the time, all the
Yeah.
time. Oh, anyway, you said you wanted to talk about your latest book or one of your books that you've just published. So please.
Yeah, so this is Organized Chaos, Turbocharge Your ADHD Superpowers. Published it last year, was an Amazon bestseller. So basically what I've done in it is, obviously I talk about my lived experience and my own experience. It's kind of part memoir, part self-development, but basically takes each of the executive functions of the brain and twists them into a superpower. So, but also what it does is goes, so for example, attention control, you have focus beam. So how do you develop hyperfocus? But what it does is, rather than just say kind of like this is what you need to do in each of the superpowers, is these are the three core skills you need to
Hmm.
develop. So if this isn't something that comes naturally to you, these are some underlying skills that you focus on first. And then for each one, I've got like a cheat code. So I've got like the dope engine. I told you about the element compass earlier. I've got for impulse control, I've got called the silent scream. So each of them has a little cheat code because we love shortcuts as ADHD
Yep.
people. So yeah, so kind of that's available in kind of like ebook and paperback and audiobook. Audiobooks narrated by me, which was a interesting experience listening to myself back speak for 4.5 hours. That was new,
I
but it
don't like
was
the
was
sound of
actually
my
not.
voice.
But was not actually as bad as I thought, and that's come in quite handy because it's made me feel more comfortable to do voiceover stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm writing a new non-fiction book for this year called Leadership Chaos, and the strapline is the good, the bad, and the WTF. And that's my experience of working with some brilliant leaders over the years and some leaders who should not be allowed near other human beings. And so, kind of, that's more like, almost think of it like a short story anthology with that
Okay.
one.
Yep.
But yeah, so the organized chaos is very much kind of lived experience memoir. Here's how you can, and it's yeah, and it's yeah, you can get it on Amazon or all the bookstores.
I will post the links to everything um,
Thank
in
you.
the description of the podcast so people can click and hopefully buy your books and stuff.
Yep.
But Nick, what a pleasure! Honestly, what a pleasure! Fascinated. I probably could have talked to you for the rest of the day, and I do. I mean that because I love talking about learning. I love talking about ADHD. I love all of them things, all of the above. But I appreciate your time. Obviously, I know how busy you are with your everything that you're doing. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having
Um,
me.
do you have a final pearl of wisdom to give someone that's maybe just diagnosed or waiting to be diagnosed or just is a bit like lost and doesn't really know what, how, where, when, who? Please.
Um,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. I will. I will. I mean, pearl of wisdom would be, um, you're you're not broken. Your brain's brilliant, and you've always been enough.
Oh, I love that. Wow. Thank you.
No worries.
Yes, thank you so much. Right, I'm going to press stop. But if you could just wait for a minute until it uploads, so then I won't lose anything.
No worries.
So yeah, give me a sec. Let me just press. And to our listeners, I'll just say this before I press. I'm like the most chaotic podcaster ever, right? And I just don't care. I'm just authentically myself, and I don't care, right? So I'm just going to say to the listeners, thank you for listening. I'm sorry, I just lost the plot again. I didn't have any plot to lose. So anyway, before
I'll stop looking at you.
I can't stop laughing now. Anyway, right, come on. Newsreader Emma is the sensible one, but she doesn't come out very often. Anyway, to my listeners, our listeners, whoever you are, you can please keep listening, and please keep following. And yeah, to our listeners, thank you very much for listening. And